All right, this is GreasedScotsman with Enemy Territory.tv, and I'm sitting here with me. I got a pair of guys from Splash Damage, the developers of Enemy Territory Quake Wars. And why don't we first introduce ourselves, and then you can tell us what you all do at Splash Damage.
Okay. I'm Jared Hefty. I'm a senior programmer at Splash Damage. You'll see me in game as JRad, posting on the community forums under the same.
And you are pretty rad.
I am very rad.
Well, don't go too far. Hey, I'm Dave Johnston, and alias Dux, and I'm designer at Splash Damage, doing level design and a bit of game design here and there as I feel like it. On the forums, I'm Dux, and just respond in really unhumorous ways to most posts. It's fantastic.
All right. And can you please describe what it takes to release a patch, logistically, and as far as in terms of development and the whole legal process? Because we know that as the patches were coming out, there were some hiccups for ETTV, and so I think the community might be kind of curious to hear a little bit more about what that is. And it doesn't need to be just for Quake Wars. I mean, any game development will do.
For Quake Wars, we actually sort of listed on a piece of paper how much work was required, and it filled like an entire A4 sheet. I don't know if you want to go through the stages of that.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, it's basically we gather all the feedback, internally, from Activision and id and whoever else is testing it on the community forums. What everybody is kind of saying is a big issue or things that are they think could be improved. We roll all that stuff around, prioritize it, figure out what's the best stuff to focus on, set up our time and do that. We build all that stuff up, we test it over and over and over, and iterate that, and then do the fun task of building, installers, documenting stuff, send that off to Activision and id. They play through it, and if necessary, we repeat that cycle again. So potentially that can be something that takes up a lot of the time, is just going through that testing cycle over and over. After that, we get to coordinate with, of course, Activision, id, Demonware, who are providing all the back-end servers because they need to test things. We need to talk to Valve for Steam release. I know we have some other digital distribution partners as well. We have to coordinate with all those guys. Take all the files, build them up, all the Linux versions, Mac versions, which of course go through id and Aspire. So that's another two companies we coordinate with. Take those out, get them out to the GSP, so that's X more companies to coordinate with. Send that a couple days early so that they have time to get things ready. And finally, write news posts and change logs and all that kind of fun stuff, and pop it out there. And of course, we also have the SDK. So while that's all going on, I'm basically going through and managing, updating, building all the code, bundling that up, and usually it's the SDKs are released at about the same time as the patches. I think 1.5 update was the same day, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, there's this this big iterative process that you just constantly going over, and then coordinate, and all these companies are in completely different time zones, and you just get
It's like sort of 500 million different companies you have to coordinate with, and as Jared just said, it's basically 3 simple steps.
Yeah.
all these things. Yeah.
Do the work, bundle it up, put it out. Yeah. Easy. But yeah, it does kind of add up, and and I see, you see in the forums people are like, "This is broken. Fix it now. Fix it now. Fix it now." And we'd really love to. If it's a problem on the server, we usually can do that because it's a lot more smaller. It's more contained. So you can actually just kind of push that out to the GSPs, and they can manage that pretty quickly. But yeah, for the full client updates and all that kind of stuff. Oh, of course, also in this lovely list of things, localization and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So got to translate. If we add new features.
Legal too.
Yep.
As well. That's
yeah. It's just this, a big complicated process, and I think, maybe the perception is, and before I was in the industry, it always seemed like, well, just put it in a zip file.
Right. Yeah.
Give us the stuff.
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you can't really do that anymore. You have to provide the installers and all that kind of fun stuff.
Of course, that's not, even when it's out, that's not the end of it. You've got all support as well. Of course, you always go and have like maybe a couple of minor issues. We've been quite lucky. There've only been a few things that required hot fixes, but even then we have to provide support for people with patching problems or problems with the update or hardware issues and all of that. Just even once it's all finished, that takes up our time as well. Yeah. It's part of the process.
Yeah. It's quite a process, and it's still really cool to be able to fix things and add things after the initial release and take care of people's problems and make the game better for them as they do it. So it's definitely worthwhile, and it's
makes a better game.
Yeah. In the end, it benefits everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the community will definitely agree. I mean, I love all the stuff that you've added since the game's initial release. Throwing in the VoIP, and then all the little tweaks here and there. And a couple of fixes to like animations and things like that. I mean, it's really. I mean, in my opinion, 1.5 is so solid, and something I never quite understood. With playing other I'll stop talking because I was going to say something about the betas. We actually have a question a little bit later on. I just remembered, but so we'll go on to our next question here. Looking back at some of the early screenshots of the game, we noticed that there are some maps that just didn't make it into the final release, and I remember hearing Lockie talk a little bit about why. But are there any plans to that those maps might make it into like some expansion pack or some sort of official map pack at some date?
I don't know of any particular plans for the expansions or anything like that I could really say anything about. A lot of the maps, like a lot of the screenshots of maps that you see that you don't recognize the bits of, they actually are parts of other maps that are actually in the game. So like I think Valley, there's a pretty good chunk of Valley that we basically used as an artist test bed. And so the real Valley at that time when we were releasing the screenshots was plain and boring and ugly, and if we showed a screenshot of it, everybody would go, no. So so while the level designers are going over the gameplay and tweaking everything on these kind of plain blockout maps, we let the artists kind of have their iteration process, figuring out how they want to do things, where they want it to go visually, and in the meantime, of course, the base levels are changing as they're tweaking gameplay. Routes are added, things are completely moved around, and so you'll see that screenshot of a snapshot of a fairly early version of a retail map, and so a lot of them. They look like they're different maps, but they are shipped with the game.
They're bits and pieces of what we actually end up getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, if we were to release those first early versions, people would go, hang on, I've played this map already. It just wasn't as good. I want to play the retail version. It's better. So there's really much point. It's basically old stuff that was improved for a reason. It's no better being because it's had age. It's good as it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's actually good to hear, because I do see what you're saying about how you can sort of take some of those scenes in the screenshots, and I can kind of imagine where they might show up in some of the maps that we do have. So, yeah.
I think there's a forum thread where people have taken these old shots and tried to work out where in the visual maps that they're taken from. It's quite impressive that people have been so. Just inspected the maps so well. Actually got most of them quite right. I think they had to intervene a couple of times, but they're actually really good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. One of the things that attracted gamers to Battlefield 2 was its innovative stat system. Was this a factor in Splash Damage's decision to put in a persistent persistent ranking system into the game? And how do you feel that this has affected the team play aspect of the game?
Well, I think Battlefield 2 showed it could be done well. I mean, Wolf ET already had this sort of stat system, and it basically Quake Wars made it sort of persistent, the same BF2 had. So it's basically it's a way that everyone could see how they improved at the games. Everyone has a way they can improve, even if it's just killing one extra person is most basic stat. But when you sort of compare objectives completed over time, you see people improve, and that's something that Wolf ET players wanted, and that's why it's added to Quake Wars, I believe.
And it's kind of the game you play against yourself. How can I improve this? How can I be a better soldier and actually complete these objectives, or kind of follow on with the team play stuff. I think it does overall encourage a lot more team play, because you have that extra carrot on a stick that helps someone who might not necessarily be as motivated to complete objectives. That they have that little kind of cupcake sitting at the end of the hallway there, and they'll be more likely to go for it and help their team overall.
On the flip side, do you feel like, I think the counter argument that someone in the community might make is that, okay, let's say you've got somebody that's working on, say, their deployable kills with vehicles, and they run off in like an Icarus or an Anansi, and instead of really helping the team, they're running to sort of the backfield looking for all the deployables that are easy kills. I think that's frankly, that still does eventually help the team, especially if it's like a plasma mortar sitting in the back. But I think that some people would kind of, make that counter argument. Do you have a response to that type of thinking?
I think the stats system was designed to encourage proper gameplay, encourage people to complete objectives. That's why objectives are focused heavily on the stats website, and it to encourage people to finish complete objectives and do all this cool stuff. So it's all about making sure people are doing the right thing. Whereas before they basically had frags, and everyone's after frags. Now it's just a sort of spread more even, I suppose, is what's really happened.
And I guess the other thing you could say to that is, it is a counterexample. It is, you can't make people play the game you want them to play. It's we provide the incentive, but you can't make them do that. So if somebody really wants to go off and run around, I don't think the stats are necessarily going to make them any more likely than, say, in a deathmatch game, just kind of running around, screwing around with a friend, at the back end of a map, and you're not helping, say, defend the flag or whatever. Right. So, you can always find counterexamples, but I don't think they're really particularly compelling argument against, like throwing out the stats or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Before the game was released, it was touted as a game that would cater to both public and competitive play. Competitive gamers seem to prefer the smaller team sizes, and they've complained a little bit about how the maps are pretty huge. And how do you feel about this? I know that I guess there were some really strong hopes that ETQW would really take off competitively, and I think that it has to a sense. But then I think we've also seen in both the U.S. and Euro arenas that that sort of interest in the competitive aspect of the game is kind of in a lull. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when we saw the competitions get a hold of ETQW, first of all, right off the bat, you saw a lot of rule sets that basically kind of stripped everything out of ETQW and turned it into Wolf ET. And that's human nature. You go with what you know. I think kind of over time, with the this official competition mod and ETQW Pro, built on top of that, we've got a fairly good set of tools for kind of shaping the gameplay, while still keeping all the important elements intact. But making it a bit more suitable, because there are quite two completely different play styles. Yeah. And I think for the team sizes, I think it's probably a bit smaller than we originally anticipated. You can kind of understand that, looking back on it, going, well, it's it's hard to find say field 12 people and get them all together and do all that. So with the competition mod, we kind of provide ways to kind of keep things even a bit more focused, so you're not spreading your team out so much. But I think, well, I've just lost my train of thought. Kind of, I'm waffled off into a minefield somewhere.
Yeah, stay away from that.
Yeah. No. I'll let Ducks talk.
You've covered everything.
No. Yeah, I've just completely lost my train of thought on that.
Well, you were saying how with the competition mod, you did sort of kind of pare things down to accommodate some of the smaller teams and try to keep things a bit more focused. So, so I guess in sort of that vein, like, what were you imagining the team sizes being when you were developing the game? Like, because I mean, I would guess that 6v6 probably wasn't really in your sights. Like maybe it's sort of the low end, but
yeah, definitely low end. I think it was more of like 8v8, 10v10,
8v10.
yeah, kind of pushing up there. So it was kind of, I don't want to say disappointing, but it was a bit of
I'll say it was disappointing.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm one of those people that I loved the idea of having like an 8v8 or a 10v10 league, and I remember when the very first rule sets were coming out for for like all the competitive leagues, and I'm like, why is there not an 8v8? Why is there not a 10v10? Because you can't play this game to its fullest with basically restricting the flies, restricting the heavies, restricting heavy weapon usage, all those things. Doing that, you cut down the possibilities.
Yeah.
And all of the I mean, what I think really makes ETQW so beautiful is how there's such a balance between all of these things, and that's why I'm like I'm on the forums being a cheerleader about the game, because I realize that going for for just the 6v6 and having to cut down all those things, like you said, you're turning it into Wolf ET, and that's not what the game is.
Yeah.
The game isn't designed to be Wolf ET. It's designed to be its very own beast. And so I kind of agree. I guess maybe sort of a lament that leagues haven't really tried larger sizes. So, but oh well. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, yeah, this is getting into the beta question. Some gamers see ETQW's open beta as a double-edged sword. And while it surely helped nail down balance issues and tweak the vehicle handling and things like that, a number of gamers seem to think that the betas represented the final product. And they may have been turned off by them. Due to id Software's long record of public betas, was there some pressure to release a beta to the community? And I'll hold off on the last part, unless you've answered some of what I've already asked.
Okay. Well, on the pressure thing, that kind of implies that we were maybe we weren't forced to do this. Yeah, we weren't. Yeah, I mean it wasn't anything like that. I don't think we knew you can't realistically release a multiplayer game like this just blind. You need to have feedback. You need to get it out there, and it's definitely like we released a true beta. It was buggy. It had it was out there for everybody to see, warts and all. And
but see, okay, I have to say something, because I've beta tested games since like the late '80s. Okay, and actually, I mean, I was beta testing games, the same time that I was beta testing ETQW, and like some of your competitors, for example, I was in their beta tests, and their betas. I mean, you want to talk about buggy betas, things that don't work, and things that run very poorly on systems. This is what did not make any sense to me, is that you've got maybe all the hardcore id Software game fans are just snobs or something, but like they were expecting it to just like work and be perfect and everything. And I'm like, have you even played this beta that's out right now? I mean, it's I'm getting like 8 frames per second playing this other game, and like I'm trying to do a left turn in a vehicle, and it keeps ejecting me out the right side of the car. I mean, not even the key bindings work. But then I walk over and I load up ETQW, and it's pretty solid. So I mean, you're saying the ETQW betas had a bunch of bugs, and yes, that's true. The vehicle handling was pretty crappy in the first beta, and there were certainly a lot of like texture issues and things like that. But as it goes, I mean, gameplay-wise, I mean, I gotta kind of disagree with you, because, I mean, like I said, I've played a lot of betas, and ETQW is one of the most solid betas I've played. So for all the shit that you guys got, I really don't think it was really fair, because I don't think that the community understood this is a beta. It's supposed to have bugs. It's not, it's like kind of feature complete, but. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm answering your own question. So sorry.
I mean that is sorry. Yeah. We do set it like, and when I say buggy, I mean like we just have a really high standard for everything. So the littlest thing, it just really kind of really gets under our skin. We're like, oh man, that could be that could be better. It's just this minor little niggling thing, but it is released under id Software's banner, and they have an incredibly high standard. So I think everybody had quite high expectations for everything, and so every little blemish that showed up, felt like it was this massive, horrible issue, I suppose. I think I saw some somewhat cynical comments from particular people who are like, well, this is the demo. This is what they intend to show everybody, and and that's unfortunate.
I mean, a demo is meant to show off the best bits, and a beta isn't designed, isn't going to have the best bits. It's going to have all the warts as well. Right. And so, people have to realize it's not a demo. It's not a free game either. Your beta testers are helping make the game better, and it's like a present to them. We give them a free game. There may be a few issues here and there, but it's your opportunity to make us improve the game, make the game you want. It tells us what you think is bad or what you think needs changing, and we'll fix it. It's about improvement.
Yeah, I think something that actually confused the issue a bit is I think maybe a few weeks or a month later, after we released our betas, one of our competitors released something. I think they called it the beta demo, which probably didn't help. That just adds so much more confusion to everything. And what kind of expectations do you have of that product? I have no idea.
Right.
But yeah, like overall, they're fantastic for getting rid of all those little words and getting good feedback on figuring out what we know, but what isn't obvious to a new player. Getting all those fresh eyes on it was definitely invaluable. Things like the warm-up mode. You see servers sitting in warm-up forever because it's not a big deal in LAN games, and we didn't really notice it. But you get it out there with 10,000 people playing, and don't really know what to do, don't know what's going on, and feedback like that. Just general polish things as well, and it really was very helpful.
Yeah, especially the hardware side of things.
Yes.
You get to test all sorts of different hardware configurations, OS configurations. You cover all those basic DLL issues that people had, and say for the final game exactly how to fix them. And of course they fixed later betas as well, especially the major hardware issues. Yeah. And of course no testing facility in the world has the same sort of range of different machines, different configurations that just general people do. So it's unparalleled, really.
And then the other part of this question is, let's see, given the experience and the mixed feedback that ETQW the beta received, would you make a different choice in the future, or is it betas all the way?
I can't imagine ever putting a game out like a multiplayer game out without getting it out there first as a beta. Maybe there's.
That's good to hear because I love the beta.
So do we.
Yeah. Maybe there's a way that you can present it to people.
Honestly, just call it ETQW test.
Yeah. That's
it worked for id.
That's probably the best way. There's ways to manage expectations. And let people know this is what you should expect. So that they don't have their sights set wrong.
Say that you're giving the community an alpha because people do understand that alpha is supposed to be buggy and stuff.
There's expectations. Exactly. That's genius. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, not necessarily lowering expectations, but what is this supposed to be? What's it supposed to be doing? What do we expect from you? That kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. While there's a great deal of negativity on the community forums surrounding the missing features in the console versions, and I agree with this, compared to the PC version, many console players have expressed how much they're enjoying the objective-style gameplay, which they have not seen in other multiplayer first-person shooters for the PS3 or Xbox 360. Do you feel that the rest of the gaming industry will catch on to the objective-style gameplay, that the trend that you guys have started?
I think other companies and us as let's start over there. Other companies will borrow things, and we borrow things from other companies. If we see someone doing something well, why reinvent the wheel? Take it, and if it makes sense, of course, take it and integrate it and make it work with your game. And so if other companies take note and say, this, the objective style gameplay is really interesting, and it does look like a lot of people are interested. It is quite possible that they'll pick that up because there's no point reinventing the wheel. And I'd definitely love to see more of that kind of style of gameplay because, obviously that's my favorite style. I might be a little biased. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's certainly possible. Yeah. Quite possible.
Yeah, as for the PC and console version of the game, yes, as understood that the PC and the console are different systems. They have different audiences, different outputs, different inputs. And although I think ETTW could have been ported pretty much straight to 360 with all different changes to the code, it wouldn't just play as well all the changes in 360 and PS3 versions, as done by Activision and Nerve, are there for a purpose. They're there to improve the game, there to make it more accessible to the console audience. It's not like you just sort of decided to take sort of 10 things out and just fix things randomly. There are good reasons for it. And so I mean, people, the game is better on the console because of it. There may be some features missing from PC, from the console version compared to the PC version, but it's the same in reverse. There are various features in the console version that aren't in the PC version, just because it's a different system, different platform.
It's not necessarily comparing apples and oranges, but maybe it's like oranges and grapefruit. They're very similar, but I apologize for that. That's awful.
Although I will say I disagree with you about one point. Whoever redid the grenade explosion sound for the Xbox, I mean, seriously, they need to get their hearing checked or something.
We'll find out who it is in every shot.
Honestly, because it's like in the PC version, it's like a grenade exploding. In the Xbox version, it's like somebody going. Pew! It's like, why? What were you thinking? It's like, is that just like they copied the wrong file? It's like this is my son's little it's a sound capture of my son's little toy, and we're gonna throw it into the game. I don't know. Yeah, that was like the first thing I noticed about the differences. I'm like, oh no. All right. PCGHX.com. They released the video and screenshots of the ray traced ETQW. Was splash damage involved at all in Intel's efforts to create that demo? And we'll answer that part first.
As far as I know, Intel basically did this on their own. They might have maybe fired some emails between id and maybe our technical director or something like that. But as far as I know. It was just they kind of went off and said this would be cool, let's try this, which is very cool.
It's been quite a pleasant surprise here that morning, just going to the news sites and just what's this? Quake was ray traced. We didn't know about this. Just looking at the videos, looking at the screenshots, and just being quite amazed by it, and all these reflections everywhere. It's quite amazing. But yeah.
Although I don't think that the community quite understood. I mean, I looked at it and I thought it was really cool, but I don't think the community quite understood like the whole purpose behind what the guy was doing. Like they were expecting it to be like the whole thing is supposed to look magically better, but it's all about reflections, refractions, and that's what he was going for. But anyway. How far in the future do you guys think we might expect to see games utilizing real-time ray tracing in the manner suggested by Daniel Pohl?
And this is the caveat that
decade, 20 years.
I'm not a graphics programmer, but just based on kind of what we've seen, and even based on what John Carmack said a couple of days ago at the keynote, it seems like it's a ways off, and it might not necessarily be this pure ray traced craziness. Maybe Larrabee or something like that will catch on and make all this possible. Pure. Beautiful ray tracing, but it doesn't seem like we're going to see anything like that, or even necessarily even a hybrid or anything kind of like that for several years. It seems like it's a long ways out.
I mean, like Jared, I'm not a graphics programmer either, but I'm a level designer, and so I can say with full confidence 3.1 for 1 years, and then we'll see the first ray trace game will be massive. It'll be superb.
Right on. All right, let's see. Many gamers feel that the quest to create extremely realistic visuals has caused many developers to lose their touch when it comes to creating fun and interesting gameplay styles. Which, by the way, thank you for not losing your touch. And how do you feel about this, and do you agree or disagree?
You can see some things where you kind of go, well, obviously someone thought, well, what does this look like? That looks like fun, and then maybe the fun wasn't quite actually in the background there to actually support what looked fun. So you can see some particular trends, but I think overall everybody just wants to make a fun game, and it's not necessarily a particular quest for graphics that makes something unfun or doesn't work. It's just they tried something out and it didn't happen to work. Yeah. And of course, splash damage we're all about gameplay first, make it pretty second. Make it pretty. That gets people's attention, but you got to keep them coming back, and that's where all the fun comes from. Mm-hmm. And I know we're just going to keep doing that. We're not going to worry too much about make it crazy, look awesome, super duper right up front. We're going to make sure it all works and it's all awesome. That kind of work we were saying with the the artist test bed's over here, but the constantly changing gameplay stuff's over here, and it is ugly. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just need to evaluate whether it's fun or not. Make it pretty afterwards, because that's the, I shouldn't say easy bit, but that's the, once the gameplay's there, making it pretty is a simpler task. I don't want to sound dismissive. That doesn't sound quite right.
I think at SD we definitely sort of think gameplay first, graphics second, but graphics second is very, very close. But you want to look as good as possible, because graphics, something looks beautiful is foot in the door for the game. That's what when people play if the gameplay isn't enough. And the gameplays will keep them there, because once they've got into the game, they just turn all graphics right down to low for maximum speed. They don't care about how pretty it is anymore. They just want to play it. It's just gameplay, gameplay, gameplay.
Well, I mean, and a lot of people play Quake Wars as if it looks like Quake 3 with mud thrown on it. I mean, it's because like you said, for a lot of hardcore gamers, I would say that it is all about the gameplay. And I mean, I will say this, for all the other titles that came out around the same time as ETQW, I played through them once, uninstalled them. I mean, ETQW on this machine, the only thing I have on here is Quake Live and ETQW. I mean, and I came to QuakeCon, and that's all I haven't had time to play any games. But if I did, then that's all I would play, because I mean that's all that I find fun. And it's like some other games are kind of neat, but they're like totally out of balance. Or some other games are kind of pretty, but they're just not that fun. So kudos to you guys for, in my opinion, kind of keeping your eye on the correct ball, and following your hearts of just making sure that the game is fun, because that doesn't happen as much as it should anymore. See, do you have any comments about Splash Damage's recent partnership with Bethesda Softworks? Please.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows they're a publisher for our next title, and can't really say too much about it at this point. But
they've been superb so far. Absolutely terrific so far. Just all the support you could possibly want. So we're really happy. And
I know we're going to be doing telling you guys more details about that. The next the coming months.
So publisher is the most that you can let out of the bag so far.
Yeah, I mean it's basically whatever's in the press releases is about all I can really say.
I got you. I understand. All right. Well, we'll turn off the camera in a few minutes, and we'll pressure you a lot for more info. Is that okay? All right. All right. And let's see. I guess obviously SD is here at QuakeCon. But can we expect? Is there any sneak peeks or announcements from you guys before the end of the event, or are you just here to have fun?
We're just hanging out, enjoying all the shows.
We're here to be incredibly bright with these wonderful T-shirts,
showing off our plumage, and that's about it, really.
Okay. Well, and that's a great segue in. Well, I'm going to ask this question out of order here. How much trouble would you have gotten into if you did this interview without wearing your orange jerseys?
Richard would have killed us.
Yeah, Rich, our media director, would have had. As soon as you got back, it was just slit our throats.
Because we actually were talking to these guys before we sat down to do this interview in another part of the convention, and they're like, "Yeah, we need to go change. This is gonna be on camera. We need to go change. Yeah, the wardroom. Yeah." Okay. And lastly, do you have any shout outs to fellow developers or any members of the community?
Well, I'll yell back to everybody at Splash Damage HQ. Hope your football game went well, and we won the world of football. I guess, can you do a shout out? I think you guys are doing an awesome job on all the ETTV stuff. That's really cool. Just watching all the streams and all that kind of stuff.
Thanks.
And
shout out to the forum people.
Yeah,
the forum peasants, as I like to call them, they make my days very entertaining every single day. I couldn't work without it, but it's brilliant.
Definitely. Everybody who takes the time to post on the community forums, it's really cool seeing everybody just discussing stuff and doing it pretty civilly as well. That's really nice.
And posting pictures of sponge ducks. For some reason, but yeah, what takes you to worry what sort of floats your boat, but keeps me entertained.
Right on. All right, cool. Well, I think that concludes our little interview with Splash Damage. And thank you guys for stopping by and chatting with us. And hopefully at some point towards the end of the show, maybe we can go grab a beer with you or something like that.
Sure, definitely.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot. Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite shirts. This is the Jesus saves after he passes each level. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.